Okay, guys, am I audible to all of you? Can you just message me? Is the voice is loud and clear? Yeah. Good evening, guys. Okay, fine. Okay, all right, guys. So we can start with the session. What I'll do is in this session we will talk about non-positivism, one of the most important topic. Now, actually, from here only you're going to learn what actually sociology is. Okay. So non-positivism, one of the most important methodology that we are going to learn in sociology. So, what you know so far, or what you know is we have just started with sociology, emergence of sociology we discussed, and then the influence of that science. That is what we have seen in that particular topic, sociology as science, right? We have discussed about that topic also, that the intellectuals initially wanted to make it similar to natural science. So, because of that, they have employed the positivist approach in sociology. And we have discussed in the last session about positivism. I'll quickly go for a recap of positivism also. And if you see that initial intellectuals or initial sociologists like Auguste Comte, Saint Simon, and then later Emile Durkheim, and all these were in favor of positivism. They are in favor of making cause and effect relationship. They are in favor of making theories. They stress on objectivity. They stress on testing and prediction, like very much similar to natural science. So this is about positivism. If I go for a quick recap, what all things we discussed in positivism, or the main elements of positivism, that's what we actually need. So positivism is all about studying external aspects, right? So they are not at all concerned about internal aspect. So external reality is what you are looking for. So let me write here positivism. So we will be focusing on external reality when it comes to positivism. Okay. And then what we have discussed is, like, even Auguste Comte said that you should not even be concerned about the internal aspects, right? So we have discussed about that. So this is the most important point which is connected with positivism. Then here, as I've told you, they are more interested and more inclined towards science. They wanted to make it similar to science. So they want to make cause and effect relationship. Okay, so always they stress on cause and effect relationship whenever they make theories. So you have to go for generalization. Generalization is what I mean by theory building. What kind of theory building? It has to establish the cause and effect, and you should use scientific methods to make the theories. And the theories which you are going to make should be inductive theory. There is a clear preference to inductive theory. I'll briefly explain what is inductive theory also. So guys, study external reality, focus on cause and effect, establish the cause and effect, make theories or generalization by using scientific methods. And there is a clear preference for inductive approach. Why this preference for inductive approach? If you see, basically to ensure objectivity. So what is objectivity? Freedom from personal bias. Whenever you conduct an investigation, there should not be any personal bias. So that is what I mean by objective study. When I say objective study, what does that mean? Studying objectively without any personal bias, personal preconception, assumptions or presumptions or prejudices. I may be a Muslim, I am conducting a study on religion, so it should not be biased against any particular religion. Or I may be a Hindu, or I may be a Parsi, I'm conducting study on religion, so it should not be biased against any particular religion. You should study religion as a whole. Or I may be a North Indian, but when I'm studying some culture, it should not be biased against some other sections, right? So I may be a male and it should not bias against female. This is what you mean by avoid personal bias. So to ensure objectivity, there should not be any personal bias. These personal bias will generally come because of certain values we hold. That is something which I need to discuss in the next session. That entire topic will be dealt in one single session. So I'm not getting into that. What do you mean by inductive approach? Inductive approach means the normal process of theory building. What you do, you are supposed to study something. So this, let's say you need to study an accident. Okay, so one area, there are a lot of accidents are happening. So you are supposed to study that. What you do is, you won't make any assumption, you won't make any hypothesis, there is no prejudices, there is no prefixed conclusion in your mind. You got a task, you will go, you collect the data, how many accidents have happened, how many got injured, how many severely injured, how many deaths are there, what could be the probable reasons, the geography and all those location and all those aspects you will collect. So mostly you will get data in terms of numbers. That is why in this, there is a clear preference for quantitative data. This is something which in terms of numbers. Once you collect the data, then you will look into the data, you will go for analysis, you will go for interpretation by using different methods, and then you will generalize it. Generalization means you will make a theory, or this generalization can be used to predict also. Like you may come up with a conclusion that most of the accidents are happening in the month of June. So one of the conclusion probably would be it is because of rain, right? Or you may come up with a conclusion that it is because of the turning, which is dangerous, that accidents is happening. So that is what I mean by inductive approach. This is what normally you used to do in your physics lab, chemistry lab, etc. This is inductive approach, which is generally preferred in natural science, but in the beginning in sociology, initial sociologists favored this approach. So they want to make theory. Which approach? Inductive approach. Why? To ensure objectivity. Because if you don't have any presumptions or hypotheses in mind, then objectivity is possible. If the method that I have discussed now, if you follow that, there is no possibility of subjectivity or bias, right? But if you are making a conclusion even before you conduct the study, for example, I am talking about domestic violence. I want to study this. I make a hypothesis in mind that domestic violence is because of alcoholism. Now I'm going to analyze it. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to prove my hypothesis. So that is a deductive approach, which in fact is more suitable in sociology, social sciences. We will discuss that. So that is the opposite of inductive approach. Deductive approach, you make a hypothesis first, and then you will try to prove it. Okay, guys. So we are talking about positivism, study external reality, establish cause and effect, make theories and generalization, use scientific methods. It should be inductive approach when you're making theory, ensure objectivity, and other simple, silly things like testability, not silly things, very important for them. It should be testable. It should be replicable. Okay. And it should also be able to predict the future of society. So all these are what you need to write and remember when it comes to positivism. And each of these need to be substantiated, right? For example, when you talk about scientific methods, what you guys will be telling in the beginning, the positivists like Comte, Spencer, even Durkheim directly used methods from natural science. But later, they have developed, especially Durkheim, have developed methods which is specifically useful for sociology, right? Similarly, inductive approach, there are many theories, especially Durkheim's theories. We try to ensure objectivity. All these we can write arguments. So this is what we have discussed about positivism. But then towards the end, what we understood is there are a lot of limitations. What are the limitations? And because of that limitations only, today we are going to discuss about this new approach, that is non-positivism. What are the limitations, guys? If you take the first one itself, you are focusing on external reality. Don't you think that itself is a big limitation? Because sociology, studying human beings, and human beings contribute society. So if you need to study society, you have to study human beings and human emotions, the internal aspect. So the focus on external aspect is actually considered as a fundamental misunderstanding of social reality, or it's a half knowledge, or it's a partial understanding of society. So this itself is the bigger problem when it comes to positivism. In fact, there's the most important criticism also. The most important point of positivism itself is the most important criticism. So for sociology should study human beings, human emotions, that the internal aspect. So you should be focusing on that. So now what we are going to study, that approach will be completely focused on internal aspects. Now, with respect to all these, we have discussed about criticisms as well. Use of scientific methods. It is not that easy to use the methods which is used in natural science. Like statistical techniques itself face a lot of criticism. And then later, even though you have developed methods, but still there is a problem in application and everything. Inductive approach is not that suitable in sociology. Objectivity we cannot ensure as desirable in natural science. 100% is desirable. Absolute objectivity is desirable in natural science, but that's not possible in sociology. Testability and prediction is a distinct reality when it comes to sociology, because in case of science, you can go to lab, you can test it, and then based on that, you can predict it. But when it comes to sociology, how can you test a phenomenon? Like suppose you're studying marriage, you're studying family, you're studying communal violence. Can we go for a testing of all those things? No, these are going to be very impossible things, right? So these are the limitations of positivism. Keeping these limitations in mind, we are looking for now non-positivism. So I'll be focusing on non-positivism now. But guys, this is going to be very simple, complete opposite of positivism. That's what non-positivism. But before I enter into non-positivism, there is a transitional phase. But in fact, this is the most important phase. Okay, so understand this phase is going to be a transitional phase. The transition is not a sudden transition from positivism to non-positivism. It was gradual. So there are some thinkers are coming in between. They actually make that foundation for that transition. And these thinkers, I will not be discussing in detail, in depth now, because two thinkers that we are supposed to discuss is none other than Weber and Mead. So this we will be discussing separately in the chapter on thinkers, but I'll tell you what they did briefly, not in depth. Okay, that we will do in thinkers, but this we will focus today, non-positivism. So now my point is, let's start with Weber. Weber is of the opinion, in fact, I've told this point when we discussed about the scope also. Weber is of the opinion that this is not correct. External reality is not what you're supposed to study. You should study the internal meanings of the actor. So according to Weber, guys, can you tell me what is the scope of sociology according to Weber, what we have learned? Study social action. And if you remember, study social action, not only studying social action, you have to establish the cause and effect. That is there. So is there anything similar to positivism? Yes, there is a similarity with positivism. What is that? Establish cause and effect. But how you're going to establish cause and effect? Understanding the meanings attached by the actor to the action. Suppose I'm teaching you what is the cause and effect. If I need to understand, if someone need to understand the cause and effect, you have to understand the meanings attached by the actor to this action. What is the meaning in my mind when I'm doing this action? Similarly, you are doing an action, right? Listening to this class is also an action. What is the meaning attached by you when you're doing this action? If you know that, it is very easy to establish the cause and effect. Causes, you are attending the class. Effect will be you will be scoring good in sociology. So how can we establish that cause and effect? Understand the meaning. What is the meaning which is there in the mind of the people? So you have to focus on meaning, which is internal. So the most important point here is there is a shift from external to internal. Now listen, guys, here, if you ask me what is the subject matter means what you study. It is external. Okay, it is external reality. That means objective reality. External realities are objective reality. Okay, but here, if I ask you what is the subject matter, it is internal. Internal means subjective reality, because meanings, emotions are something which you can never quantify. These are subjective. The meanings you generate and I generate and the other person generate may be different. Okay, so it is some of you might be attending the classes for sociology general knowledge you may attend. Some of you for cracking this exam. Even some of you are attending the classes for teaching also. Okay, so it all depends, right? The meaning will be different. So it is something which cannot be quantified easily. It is very subjective and it depends on individual. So can I say, if I ask you what is the subject matter in positivism, it is external reality, which is objective reality. These words are very important. External reality, I'm using the word objective reality. Here, there is a change in subject matter, internal, that I can consider as subjective reality. So Weber, what is the change he introduced? Change he introduced is actually in the subject matter. Positivism, it's objective reality or the external reality, not non-positivism. Weber, this approach is interpretive sociology. I'll come to that. Internal aspect or the subjective reality. So there is a shift from objective reality to subjective reality in the approach of Weber in terms of subject matter. Okay, but another dimension, the subject matter. Here, if you see cause and effect, how you study. So before I talked about what you study, external reality, here internal reality. Now how you study, you can see here by establishing cause and effect, or you study objectively. Can you see that? You study objectively in positivism. Weber also is of the opinion that you should be conducting objective study. Okay, that means by establishing cause and effect, go for an objective study. So is there anything common between positivism and Weber? Yes. What is that common thing? How you go for, or how you approach the subject matter, how you study the subject matter. It is common. How you study? Objectively, you will study. Means by establishing cause and effect, by making theories. So positivists also make theories, Weber also make theories. So they both are same or common in one thing: how you approach the subject matter, how you approach it objectively. What you study is different for both. What you study is for Weber is internal aspect, but for positivist it is external aspect. Okay, now let me put it in this way. This is, if you can understand this, then this topic is actually done. For positivism, I am going to write it like this. It is nothing but objective study of objective reality. Did you guys understood this? Objective study means how you study. So how you study objectively. What you study, objective reality. Objective reality means external reality. So positivism, this is the way I can explain. This is what actually you should write in paper. These things, these are something which kids will write. Professionals won't write that way. You have to say objective study of objective reality. Only two things are taken into consideration. What are that two things? How you study and what you study. How you study, objectively you will study. What you study objective reality. Now, if this is how you explain positivism, can anyone tell me how you explain Weber's approach? Two things is what you need to take into consideration. First is how you study. Second, what you study. Can anyone tell me? Or you can just type it because you are all mute now. Internal, yes, but I want to get it in this way. Yes, objective study, because he's focusing on objective study of subjective reality. Perfect. So the question is how you study objectively, what you study subjective reality. You guys got it? Now there is a transition you can see. What is a transition? The subject matter is a transition. How you study remain the same in both cases. Mead's approach is also the same. So Weber's approach is what you study later as interpretive sociology. In his theory of social action, I'll get in depth of it. Mead, symbolic interactionism, interactionist approach, we will do it later. But as of now, you just need to know that there is a deviation. What is that deviation? In terms of subject matter. So in fact, you can say that Weber is considered to have bridged the gap between positivism and non-positivism, because once we discuss about non-positivism, you will realize it that. Internal aspect is what you mean by subjective reality. That's what I have told this much time, right? Then what is the question about that? Internal, the feelings, emotions, all these are subjective. Okay, that's what all this time I'm talking about. Internal aspects are subjective. Love, hatred, emotions, everything is subjective. You cannot quantify that. Okay, now non-positivism. Again, two things only, guys. What you study and how you study. What you study is actually fixed now. What Weber have told, exactly the same. So non-positivism, they will go for study of internal aspect. Okay, you will go for study of internal aspect. That means meanings, motives, emotions, etc. That's what Weber also said. So they are sticking to that. But how you study, they are not in agreement with Weber nor positivist. You cannot establish cause and effect. You cannot study objectively. They are saying that you can study subjectively also. You should be studying subjectively because human beings are studying human beings. So it cannot be objective. I study you, you study me. It can never be objective. Okay, so what you study, internal aspect, which is also subjective. How you study, you will be studying subjectively. That means there is no objective study is possible in non-positivist approach. In case of sociology, no objective study is possible. Simply because human beings are studying human beings. Now, if this is the case, how can I write like this? If positivism is objective study of subjective reality, where I'm talking about only what and how. Weber's and Mead's approach is objective study of subjective reality. How are you going to write this one? Non-positivism in that very language. Subjective study of subjective reality. Simple. Okay. So subjective study of subjective reality. Means what you study? Subjective reality. How you study? Subjective reality. So let me start with once again this one, positivism. What you study? Objective reality, the external reality. How? Objectively you will study. Weber, what happened? Subject matter have changed. Internal aspect. So subjective reality is what you study. How? It should be similar to positivist, objectively. So that is why this guy is considered to have bridged the gap between two. There is an element from positivism. There is an element from non-positivism. What is that element from positivism? This one. What is that element from non-positivism? This one. Subject matter is internal. Positivism, objective and objective. Non-positivism, subjective and subjective. In between Weber come, there is a deviation in terms of subject matter. So Weber is considered to have bridged the gap between positivist and non-positivist. That is a deviation. Now, other things are very simple, guys. Once you know that it is subjectively, they don't follow theory. For them, there is no need to make theory. Only understanding is what matters. Just go and understand things. Okay, there is no need to establish cause and effect. So there is no establishment of cause and effect. There is no need to objectivity. There is no testability and prediction. Everything a big no. That's why you won't study any theory by non-positivists. They don't make any theory. They don't want to make theory. They don't support theory. They go for deductive approach instead of inductive approach. They go for deductive approach. So all these are opposite you will see when it comes to non-positivism. Okay, so this is a very simple approach. So what are the features of non-positivism? Now it's going to be very simple. Study internal aspect. You can study subjectively. There is no theory, there is no testing, there is no prediction, only understanding, and use deductive approach. Use qualitative data. Here, if you use quantitative data, here you will use qualitative data. Because you have inductive approach and you need to ensure objectivity. So you need to get things in numbers. That's why quantitative data. Now here, you are not at all concerned about objectivity and you are using deductive approach. So you can get qualitative data. Qualitative data means numbers. Guys, this inductive, deductive, I'll have a separate session. Objectivity, I will have a separate session. Quantitative, qualitative, I'll have a separate session. If some of you are not able to understand these words right now I'm using, you don't worry about this. We will be looking into all these in the coming sessions. Okay. So as of now, why I have taken this positivism? It is because all these elements, if you understood, you can understand the change which has been brought by Weber. And then non-positivism is just exact opposite of positivism. But that intermediate phase, right? That phase is what you need to know. So any doubt here, guys, these 3 points, positivism, objective study of objective reality. Why? Because we are answering what to study and how to study. Positivism, what to study? External aspect, objective. How you study? Objectively. So both are objective. Weber, what you study? Subjective reality, internal aspect. How you study? Objectively. So objective study of subjective reality. Non-positivism, how you study? Subjectively. What you study? Subjective reality, internal aspect. So subjective study of subjective reality. Okay, so positivism, objective, both objective study of objective reality. Non-positivism, subjective study of subjective reality. In between Weber, there is a deviation in what to study. That means the subject matter. So Weber approach, objective study of subjective reality. That is a change, shift you can see. Okay. Now there are 2 approaches in non-positivism, phenomenology and ethnometrology. Subjective study means you are studying human beings. So human beings, when you're studying, the personal bias may come. So that is not a big problem. Objective study means without any personal bias, you have to study. Subjective study means even the personal bias can be incorporated in the study. That relaxation is there when it comes to non-positivism. They're not adamant or strict on that objective study. Okay, now let's go to the PDF and I'll explain all these things once again with the PDF. And after that, when we are discussing the PDF, I'll discuss these 2 concepts, phenomenology and ethnometrology, which is 2 important non-positivist approach. Okay, they will ask you separate questions. Non-positivism, they'll ask you separately. They will ask you non-positivism as a critique to positivism. They will ask you Weber's approach. They will ask you Mead's approach. But these two I'll be discussing later in Thinkers. But now, guys, will you be able to interconnect everything? The way that we have discussed, this is for integrating and interconnecting everything. You will not be facing it. You should not face any problem once we're done at this level. Okay. So let's go with the PDF now. So towards the end of 18th century and early 19th century, positivist approach like empiricism, inductivism, universalism came to be questioned by alternative school of thought, broadly referred to as idealist. That group, idealist. Okay, guys, empiricism means external reality. Universalism means laws need to be universally applicable. Inductivism is a theory building process. Scientists like William Dilthey, Rickert highlighted the difference between natural world and social world. According to them, social world is unique in terms of meaning, symbols, values, etc., which govern it. Right? On the other hand, natural world is guided by the laws of nature. Thus, there are some internal sides which exist in the